Author's Corner, a conversation with Bennett Kremen. He's got such an interesting book, Savage Days, Haunted Nights. Bennett, thanks so much for hopping on with us.
Oh, you're quite welcome.
What led to writing this book?
Well, Kate, I wish we had an hour. What led to it? First of all, I've been writing for many, many, many years. I'm a senior citizen, actually. I've been writing since my 20s. So I've written many, many, many things. This book in particular is sort of semi-autobiographical. Not totally. It's fiction, but it's based on some rather stark and dramatic experiences in my life. So I'm, ready to tell. I'm not going to write an autobiography, and I'm not going to write exactly, reality exactly as it is. I'm a fiction writer, so it's in the form of fiction, but it's based on seriously dramatic incidents from my life.
All right, so it's fiction, but you do what a lot of good writers do. You use your story. Tell the listeners about the story.
Okay, the story. Well, the book starts out in Chicago in the early 50s into the 60s in a neighborhood in Chicago called the Old West Side, which is a rather unique place. The Old West Side is actually the area where Al Capone's mob family was located. So I grew up in that. So when they talk about genre, one of the genres would be crime fiction, but it's not limited to that. In fact, the whole idea of genre, it limits what books are really all about. It's more a convenience for the publishers than an accurate description of the of literature itself. An example of that would be Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. Is Crime and Punishment a crime novel? Actually, Crime and Punishment is probably one of the greatest literary novels in the world. However, the crime novel started with Crime and Punishment. It's a story about a character, a very complex and interesting one who murders people, and it ends up being pursued by a detective. It's the first detective novel ever. However, it is one of the most profound novels about human character and morality and all those things. So yes, Savage Days, Haunted Nights, my book, is a crime novel, for sure, but it also has a major romance in it. It has a character analysis, psychological depth, philosophical exploration of and many other things. So the genre is as complicated as I've just pointed out. So the main character, his name is Dorian. So he starts out. It starts out in his early years in Chicago, and he was a dyslexic. He didn't know, it's that problem of learning how to read. There was no diagnosis for it at that time. The only diagnosis for it at that time was dummy. He's a dummy. They didn't know that there was any kind of, physical complication neurologically. So, yeah, he was a dummy. So he dropped out of school. What do school dropouts often do? They get into trouble. Well, who are they going to hang around with? They can't go to school. So Dorian gets into trouble, very deep trouble in that neighborhood with the type of people I described. Then through the vicissitudes of life, something in him there's something decent in him, and certain dramatic circumstances arise. He runs, he gets out of there. He knows he got to leave. He runs off to New York, and on his way to New York, it occurs to him, I ought to tell this story. By the way, Kate, this was before, the Goodfellas or the Godfather. This is years before that, when that experience happened to this character. So it was wide open, and the idea is nobody knows about this. So he felt, gee, I really would like to write about the stories. He goes to New York, and where does he go? Where do the writers live? Greenwich Village. He moves into Greenwich Village, and he starts a life there. Then through the vagaries of life, he goes broke. He had money from his criminal days in Chicago, runs out. He gets involved with a very interesting woman, and he's learning how to write. I mean, in an excruciating way, he actually learns to overcome the dyslexia, and he starts to write, and he wants to write the story, and he's informed, you got to write some short stories, small things. That's how you develop getting ready to write anything, a big story like that. So he starts doing that. He runs out of money, and what does he do? There's a problem with his girlfriend, and he's very depressed, and he's running out of money. What does he do? He takes a loan from the loan sharks. God, well, what do you know? He's back in trouble, and the rest of the novel unfolds how he gets out of that. And let me tell you, it's a bumpy ride.
And it's so fascinating. Your story is really, you talk about blending your life. You have the Al Capone theme. You have what the mafia was like. It's like you were saying, what was it like living around that? What was it like dealing with a loan shark? And the characters are rich. And some of this tale is just absolutely, I have to say, mind blowing. You talk about Greenwich Village. You had poets there. You have criminals there.
Yes.
You have all kinds of society there. And wow, that opportunity to be among all those characters had to be really, really fascinating. And it gave you, I think, a lot of room to be able to write some of these characters. And really looking at Dorian, he was bright, and I would say he was like a dreamer. And you look at the Old West Side, and
Yep.
and Al Capone. What was that like growing up, though, in that environment?
Oh, Kate, it took a whole book to write that. It was amazing. Remember, this was before the Scorsese movies, before Goodfellas and all of that. Well, if this were, I would love it to be a movie. And if I had the possibility to talk to Scorsese, I would say, Mr. Scorsese, I know what you know. I've been there. So if you saw that movie, that's what you would see. The reality, the difference between Scorsese's Goodfellas and The Godfather is a fantasy taking place in a palatial, wood-lined rooms with a mansion with a lake on it, and it could be the Fortune 500. Actually, the mob is not like that. The mob is like what Scorsese's describing.
Rough.
It's like the Goodfellas. That's the real story. Godfathers is a fantasy.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out, because there is a stark difference between those two films. Absolutely. And you lived it, and you know what the neighborhood was like, and you know that how things could be tense, or if you were on the right side with the people in Capone's gang and they liked you, you were probably okay. And I guess the goal is to be left alone, right?
Well, yeah, the goal is to be left alone, but I was a school dropout and very angry, and I actually got involved with them. Fortunately, I got out of it before there was a moment where a murder was necessary. I just didn't have, whatever decency in me just took hold and said, "Get the hell out of there," and I fled.
Ah, and good for you. So when people, Bennett, read your book, Savage Days, Haunted Nights, what do you hope they take away from reading the book? What do you hope they feel or think, or they flip the last page or they're amazed? What are you thinking?
Well, I hope, first of all, that they're profoundly entertained, that they can't turn the book down, that it's a story that they can't let go because it's just too dramatic. I tried to write it that way. I've been writing a long time. I think I accomplished. I just had a review in the Hollywood book reviews, and they saw that. It was a I can't tell you how grateful I am for that review. It was a rave. They saw exactly what I'm trying to tell you. So that's an objective verification of what I thought I was doing in the book. Yeah, you can't put it down. I wrote it to be that way. Number one, that you sit down, you read these books for entertainment. Also, if it's more than just entertainment, it's a story about, good and bad, evil and virtue. A story, it's, right and wrong. It's meaning, and that people are flawed, they're bad and they're good, but the most important thing is you come out more good than bad, and the character does come out more good than bad, and it's on the way to that discovery, and the beauty of the good over the bad comes through, but it comes through in dramatic terms. It's not a lecture on morality or anything like that, but it is in the characters and in the action and in the excitement.
Ah, perfectly put. I love it. You can get Bennett's book on Amazon or Barnes & Noble, wherever great books are sold. Bennett, keep writing, and thanks so much.
Thank you so much. You're a fine interviewer. I've had interviews before. This was great. Thank you.